Mr. Murphy, how long have you been a farmer?
About 35, 37 years on my own. I've been here all my life, 40 years so.
And what kind of different crops have you grown over your lifetime?
Well, when I was in high school, we raised cotton and we went to rice in about 65, and I came back from the Army and school, we went into soybeans and rice. Soybeans, and now it's soybeans and corn and rice.
On a day-to-day basis, what kind of farming concerns that you have to worry about or that you have to come up with?
Sounds like a question concerning stress. What stresses me the most? We can talk about planting season and irrigation season and harvest season. And I think I have 3 annual nervous breakdowns, one prior to planting season, one prior to irrigation season, and one prior to harvest season.
How far ahead do you plan your next year's crop?
I have a 3-year rotation plan. I stay out 3 years ahead on my rotation and just a year ahead on farming. You've got to book your seed in advance. I booked fertilizer yesterday. I bought all my fertilizer needs yesterday because it seems that the prices are going to go back up, so we needed to get it while we can. Irrigation concerns, you just got to plan the efficiency of using the water. You've got some fields that got to be irrigated before the next field, because if you get the area of one field wet that you don't want to get wet, you're not going to be able to get in there to your job site. That's one of the concerns of the irrigating. And then you've got insects. Insects are very variable. They kind of have a certain time of year that they do things. We sprayed the 3/4 of the bean crop for stink bugs last week, and we did not have stink bugs the week before. They just all of a sudden just came in. They started coming in, and then they just grow exponentially. Then you got to treat them and put some of those good chemicals out there that the environmental folks continue to allow us to use. They've changed it. The chemicals aren't as strong as they used to be. They have, through science, and EPA has a wonderful, while we're talking about, I'm glad they're here, because we need to have a check and a balance, and they need to stay behind us.
Is that right?
We couldn't do what we do in the United States without insecticides and chemicals, period. It just would not work.
Wouldn't be able to feed the world, basically.
No, I don't. As a farmer, you understand that tilling the garden, we're told from the beginning that there were going to be thorns and thistles. That's an agricultural statement, as well as something that it's kind of a curse. You're going to always have those difficulties with weeds and insects, and Moses used lots of insects in the plagues. They are here, and if we can't control them, they're designed to eat foliage. They're going to eat the foliage, or they're going to eat the fruit, and we've got to spray the insects so they won't eat the fruit.
Lawrence, over the last couple of years, we've worked together on your field, because we're monitoring what's going on. Why don't you tell us why you would grant us access and let us get in your way and occupy space on your field and take up, your time and your effort?
Those water study programs we did on the Tommy Bow, and it's about 3,800 acres. I enjoyed that. It was time consuming, but most of us are natural born and environmentalists, because when we read in our simple agricultural digest, we learn that if you do not apply chemicals properly and don't use the chemicals properly, insecticides, you can hurt your soil. You can actually sterilize your soil if you don't do it right. Well, we all want to do it right. We have an excellent staff in Stoneville, and we have an excellent experiment station that lets us know what we use. Now, as far as the water, I'm interested in what's coming out of our fields. We don't want, we got enough problems in the Gulf Coast with fertilizer and nitrates going down there and increasing that big area with fish where it's just a dead part, And another reason I never even mentioned to you was the idea of recharging. I've always had that idea of wanting to put that clear water back in there, and y'all got things going. I'd like for my son to be here, and as long as we can.
Yeah. Speaking of your son, so how has farming changed over your lifetime?
Well, the effort and the time and the hours have not changed. cost has changed a lot. It takes 3 times what it did to farm when I came here in 1978. What's changed is equipment's gotten larger and employees have gotten less. We can do so much with so little. But the whole basic philosophy is you do as much as you can with the minimum amount of input. The weather has changed drastically. We always had, weather's always been irregular, and we've tried to work with the weather and work around it. But now we have such extremes. Seems like anytime somebody in the rain gets a delta rain gets a good delta rain, we're gonna get a good 3 or 4 inch rain in summer when that's what we need. Somebody's gonna lose a roof, a house, or a tree, or a power line, or something. Something's gonna get hurt. I've had a tornado hit us twice last year. It took the whole top off the barn, and then just not too long ago, it flipped the top. Another one came through.
So what about the weed control system? So you're still using, you have Roundup Ready beans?
We use Roundup Ready beans. Historically and always, every time we get a chemical that works good, within about 10, 11, 12 years, as a rule, then it's abandoned because everything builds up resistance. It's something about nature. The insects build up resistance. The weeds have built up resistance. There's a lot of weeds, which everybody talks about around. You've got all kind of pig weeds. You've got Johnson grass that's showing up resistance now.
So is your corn BT corn, or is it just Roundup Ready corn?
It's Roundup Ready and BT.
And BT, okay.
So when a bug bites it, it dies. Now I don't know. I used to know what the basic BT is. Do you know what's the basic BT?
It's a protein.
It's genetic.
Yes. They've inserted a gene to have it express a protein
that kills the insect.
The insect cannot digest. Correct.
I think genetics, as long as it's controlled, if we're talking about genetics being, it's absolutely wonderful. Mm-hmm. To get to do whatever they do to where we can continue to produce. We got to continue our yield increase. There's going to be a point where we're not going to be able to increase the yield anymore. And then, where's the industry? The people, where are our suppliers? What are they going to do to us? We're going to be able to stay in business. We're still in business. We've been in business forever and ever. Of course, farmers are always po-mouthing. It's just such a risk. It's psychological as much as anything.
If you could talk to the policymakers right now, I mean, what 1 or 2 things would you like to tell them?
Now, I don't know how much more you could tell a policymaker that we've got to support agriculture. The first thing we had to do in the garden was feed ourselves, and we're still feeding ourselves, and it costs a lot to feed ourselves, and it takes all this steel and metal and diesel and sweat and all this stuff, and all these people. But so much of the manufacturing, it's all geared to agriculture, to feeding ourselves. Mm-hmm. Integrity. When you're dealing with policymakers, everybody needs to deal in the realm of integrity. What's best for everybody? You got to be totally objective, and politicians too often are not objective. They're subjective. It's selfishness, it's greed, it's power, leadership, statesmen. Integrity, that's what we need.